Tell us a little bit about, I guess, where this kind of all came about, how you and Sarah and Amy got this project off the ground.
So Sarah came to me with this idea of what about a woman on Wall Street? And at first I wasn't very interested in it because I love Wall Street movies. They're so fun to watch. They're thrillers, but there's a level of misogyny and there's a level of greed that didn't really touch my heart. And if I'm going to make a movie and put art into the world, I want it to have a purpose, sort of, and to have a need in the world. And they've done so many great Wall Street movies. Like, why reinvent the wheel, right? But then I started talking to a dear friend of mine who consults with women in the workplace, and she started telling me all these stories, and I started interviewing these women. And the stories they told me of the inequity and how women are treated and the statistics made me go, oh my God, we have to make this movie. This is a story that's really never been told. And what if we make this really exciting, fun thriller that's this, I like to call it a stealth bomb social issue piece, and that really brings up these conversations about how women treat each other in the workplace and how women are treated in the workplace and what happens to women at a certain age and a certain point in their career on Wall Street, and what if we could talk about it and incite change. So Sarah and I developed it on our own for a little while. I was really interested in what does Wall Street look like post 2008? Like, we really haven't seen Wall Street post 2008. We developed it a little and talked about maybe a healthcare company, and did we want to do an IPO and I was really interested in social media because to me, educating myself about stocks and what is an IPO and what does that even mean on a deep, deep level. I knew what it meant, but what does it really mean when a stock goes public? I was deeply fascinated by social media because there's no there.
Yeah.
It's not gold. It's not coffee. It's not pork bellies. And how do you value something? And then, of course, the metaphorical issue of how do you value something? And we had both known Amy Fox separately. She had hired her to write a play for her, and I had been attached to a movie that she wrote with Kerry Washington like years and years ago. That's a beautiful movie called Stuyvesant Town that never got made. Someone should. And so we both reached out to her, and I think she did such an incredible job. I mean, she really, I bow to the Amy Foxness of Amy Fox. So
she did a great job of not only showing that rise in the characters, but specifically in your characters, the family life and how intimate it got. I love the sequences that you get to have with the kids.
Thank you. It's funny. A lot of, there are two shots of our family. There's like 5 that we shot, and of course a lot of that ended up on the cutting room floor because you want to make an entertaining thriller and there's only so much room. But the great news is we are developing it into a TV series now.
Really?
So hopefully you'll see more of that family. And for my character, that family life and the joy of that family life, and seeing this this woman and her joy was really an important piece for me. One of the super fun things about this was being able to develop something and say, I want to be married to a woman. I want to be married to an African American woman, and saying that from the first kernel of creating the character, because I got to choose, and I wanted to create as many roles for women and as many roles for African American women as I possibly could. And in our world of this super white, super male Wall Street world, there weren't a lot of places to do that. So I was like, well, wherever I can, I will. And so I'll be married to a woman. And I was also really interested in doing that without talking about it, without making a deal about it. It just is. It just is her truth, and there's nothing to talk about, and God willing, we're getting more and more to a place where that is just is.
And you guys got to also touch upon a very interesting subject, the subject matter of pregnancy in the workplace, and not just going through a character who's going through that, but I love the sequence where Anna's character is asking her old boss about if I'd gotten. I was like, that's such a powerful moment.
It's, I love what Amy wrote around this whole issue. And for me, I did hide my pregnancy. I got hired to do Rosalind in As You Like It when I got hired before I got pregnant, and then I got pregnant, and I hid it because I didn't want it was my dream role and my dream play, and I did not want to lose that job. And then I went and did that, and then I was doing a TV show after that, and I'll never forget. I went to do the TV show, and there were Spanx in my dressing room, and I went home and I cried to my husband. I'm like, they know I'm pregnant. And then I found out they put Spanx in everyone's dressing room.
So is it eerie to be able to make a movie that you've partially lived some of these moments, and especially not just film but TV world? You've seen both sides of it.
It's it was such an interesting process of like really something is an idea in your brain, and then you film it, and then you edit it. And the editing for me was the hardest part, because we did have to let go of a lot of story. We had 2.5 hours. Our rough cut was 2.5 hours, and it's now 90 minutes. So that's about half, right? And on the page, it was only 90 pages, but somehow it got sort of bloated as we shot it. So then we had to really trim it down in this massive way. And it's heartbreaking. They call it, as writers, kill your darlings. And as an editor and as a producer, it was so painful. There's a scene where I'm crying in a shower because, one of the things that we decided not to put in the movie is someone commits suicide, the mole.
Oh, wow.
Corey commits suicide. Wow. And we decided that was, going a little off track of like the small story we wanted to tell. And so I find that out, and then I'm like hysterically crying in a shower. And then I decide to go, have these people seen the movie?
I don't think so.
So I'm not going to tell you anything more.
The secret.
So then so then something else happens. And it was really hard letting go of that. It was really, really hard, but it was what was best for the movie. And sometimes you have to choose like what's best for this storytelling, not what's best for me as an actor. It's not about me showing off how good I am at crying. It's about how do we tell the best story.
What's it like having those multiple hats? I mean, you guys are launching a production company with this film.
It's freaky deaky. It's really freaky deaky. I think for me, the coolest thing that I learned is I love not thinking about myself so much. So when I'm busy taking care of everybody else, I'm not thinking about how I'm doing as much, and it's probably really good for my acting. So especially in a situation like this where I've lived with this character, as you said, for so long, because it was an idea in my head, and I've been thinking about her, and like I've created such a history for her, and such, I was talking about the costumes with someone. One of my friends saw the movie at the WGA this weekend, and she was like, I loved, the costumes you wore and the vests. And I said, I really thought about that. Like, I designed her costume story and that vest story. And in my head, it was that she wanted to be like her dad. And she also used to watch Columbo movies and like all these spy movies with her dad. And that's why she wanted to be an AUSA like that. Yeah. And that was really fun to like say, to really create the details of a character. The little things like that she has a bottle of her daughter's vitamins on her desk, and she eats them. Like, she loves them and she eats them. And I don't know if you remember, like, there's the scene where she throws one at him. And I think people watching the movie don't really know what it is that I'm eating or throwing at him, but I know that what that is and why I did it and why I put it on the desk. It was a way of like connecting to my child and feeling like she was with me, or both. It's so funny, I'm saying my daughter because I'm a mother of a daughter, but Sam had twins, and so her daughter and her son, and a way of connecting to her kids while at work. I don't know if you noticed, but a couple times I'm playing with their toys, because she kept toys of theirs in her office, because sometimes as a working mom, her kids would come to the office. Now, we never even wrote scenes like that, but that's the fun detail work. You have the time and energy to think about when you've created a character from the moment you've created it, like she's a creator, created out of my own head, which I've never experienced before, and that's really fun.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm kind of curious, because there's a line that is repeated in the film. It's I think a staple of the film, but it's
should be a hashtag.
Yeah, and it's most apparent in your character's transition. Can you talk about the importance of that line?
Sure. That line is, "Don't let money be a dirty word," and I will say our brilliant screenwriter, Amy Fox, wrote that line. She read a book called Dear Money while she was doing research for the film, and it was all about this woman who sort of falls in love with money. And other scenes that you don't see in the movie that are like sort of this backstory to this character is, there's one where Sam goes to the trading room floor and sort of breathes it all in and falls in love with money. And then another scene that we talked about that we never shot was her like window shopping and seeing things that she could never afford. And there's another piece of it of really embracing money, and like, women don't talk about money. I feel like so many guys, and my husband will confer with this, they'll have conversations like, "Oh, what'd you make last year?" I've never heard a woman say that to each other in their life. They're happy to talk about sex, but they won't talk about money. And that's fascinating. And why not? And I think part of our problem with pay equality is that inability to talk about it and the inability to ask about it. And that's a big piece of this journey for this character, but also for the movie. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, my character is the breadwinner of her family, and there are many women married to both women and men who are the breadwinner of the family, and to own that, and that's really okay, and that's really cool to be the breadwinner of a family.
Sarah's character as well is obviously going to be the breadwinner. Yeah,
he's a teacher.
It's having fun with that role, but I love the scenes with Sarah and them in bed, and it's a role reversal of who's on top and who's in control. Yep. With that sexual side of it as well.
Yeah, I love doing the scene with Nate, where it's sort of like reverse sexual harassment. Like, I use my sexuality to get what I want, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, which is a great scene, by the way, that you really, that seduction quality was wonderful.
Thank you. Am I ditzy?
Was it fun to be able to play that? Not cop feel, but you know what I mean? You got to play that.
So fun.
Yeah.
It was delicious. I've certainly played, it was funny, when we wrote this, I hadn't done How to Get Away with Murder yet, so I hadn't played a lawyer. And I wrote it because I was like, I obviously had played a lawyer on Law & Order many times because I'm a New York actor, but that's the only time. And I was so interested and curious to play something so different from Fig, and to create like the woman in the white hat, and a real good good hero. And it was so fun to play that sort of badass hero, who also broke the rules. She totally broke the rules.
She made the rules, it felt like.
Yep.
I'm curious, with the launch of Broad Street, does this mean more films? I mean, does this mean we'll see you even more?
I think, Sarah and I feel like we got this film done in under 2 years. Like, we got it from idea to release in 2 years, and that took very myopic vision, and we had to focus just on one film, and now we're just focusing on the TV series. And I'm also doing, like right now I'm doing an arc on Masters of Sex, and I just shot a new series called Better Things. Watch it. September 8th. It's Louis C.K.'s new show, written and directed by Pamela Adlon, and she plays a mother of three, very sort of like a female Louis C.K., and I play her best friend. So, and I'm right now doing Whitney Cummings' movies. So both, like, which she wrote, directed, and starred in, and both women, Pamela and Whitney, I'm so excited about, like, these awesome powerhouses. So right now, a lot of my time is our TV series and then being of service to other stories, which I love. Like, I'll always be an actress first, but would I love to make more movies? Sure. Will it be under Broad Street, or will I go play with other people? I don't even know. But do I plan to make more movies in my life? Sure.
I love that you've been able to do, the primetime networks, but also, like Showtime and HBO and those types of networks. Can you talk about the fun of jumping between those? Because your characters change so much.
It's so interesting. When I was 5 years old, my aunt, I was on a New York City bus going from the east side to the west side, and there's like one of those like pivotal stories that I remember. And my aunt said to me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to act, and I want to paint, and I want to write, dabble." And that's how I feel about acting, theater, film, television, the different networks, like, be it FX is such a different feel than NBC or ABC or CBS, which is such a different feel from Netflix, which is such a different feel from Showtime, which is, I just did Michael Showalter's new show that my friends Charles and Sarah Violet Bliss wrote, which is another phenomenal thing. And I'm not sure when that one opens, but I think that's TNT. Yeah. And I did a couple of episodes of that, and Search Party. And that had a totally different feel. So each network and each project has its own feel. Like, that one felt like an independent film. I did their first independent film, which was, oh my God, now I'm totally, Fort Tilden.
Yeah.
And I loved working with them. And I said to them, like, I'll do anything you do ever. And now we're doing this. And that feels like an independent film. Whereas Masters of Sex has such a artiste feel, and they have money, and every moment and every set piece and every costume piece and hair and makeup is so curated in such a specific way, because in part there are amazing artists involved, but also because they can afford to. And they have both the time and the money to do that. Whereas Search Party is a baby new show that's just starting, and they don't have a huge budget, and it's a really different kind of thing. And I love them both 100% equally, just like I love doing big budget films and tiny budget films.
Being able to give, like, a young filmmaker like Mira an opportunity to tackle something this big, what does that feel like as a producer?
I want to cry. I mean, it feels like the biggest gift on the planet, because she's so freaking talented. And honestly, I feel lucky to have worked with her. Like, I feel lucky to know her and call her friend, and to have gone through this journey with her, because she was the Helmer in such a spectacular way, in a billion different ways. Be it I felt so safe with her as an actor, to her camera angles, to the way she led the crew, to the edit. Like, she was a spectacular Helmer. Like, she really defined the word Helmer for me. And I feel just lucky to have her, but I also am aware that it's really hard for female directors, and her first movie was $81,000, and it's really hard to make that jump. You know, there was an article in the Times recently about how men make these tiny indies and then they go on to these huge big budget movies, and it so rarely happens for women. So I am so thrilled. Nothing would make me happier than if this pushes her career forward in a spectacular way, because she deserves it. And I always like to share, when I found her, I emailed someone who consults with film and who I really respected, and I said, give me your one woman that you think is going to win an Academy Award, like, you know, and it's her. And she was under 30 at the time. And I just, you know, I think you're going to see great things from Mira Menon. You already have, and you will continue to.
Well, I must admit, thank you for revealing so many shows that you're going to be in, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's so awesome. That I would hate to ask,
like singing their praises.
Yeah.
I'm like, go see their shows.
But it must be fun. You are in so much. It's kind of crazy.
Yes.
Take a break. Why don't you?
Well, it's so funny. Once this movie we're on press tour and movie opens, and God willing, August, I'm going to spend some time in Fire Island with my beautiful daughter and my beautiful husband, and just spend a couple days on the beach. So we'll see how that happens.
Well, here's to a good end to your summer then.
Cheers. Thank you. And thank you so much for enjoying the film.
I loved it. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.